Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Today is Saturday, July 26th, 2025, and we're going to be in the first half of the 27th chapter of Acts of the Apostles today. Paul sailing for Rome, and it looks like there's a storm and at sea coming. So we're zooming back in on the daily reading plan. Today is the 26th, and we're looking for the exact first half. And 1 to 26 actually falls perfectly within storylines. And as I found by accident, we're going to go full screen now. So we got it queued up here on 27. Paul sails for Rome. So this is after talking with King Agrippa, and we'll see where he's going next. When the time came, we set sail for Italy. Paul and several other prisoners were placed in the custody of a Roman officer named Julius, a captain of the imperial regiment. Aristarchus, a Macedonian from Thessalonica, was also with us. We left on a ship whose home port was Adramyttium on the northwest coast of the province of Asia. It was selected to make several stops at ports along the coast of the province. The next day we docked at Sidon. Julius was very kind to Paul and let him go ashore to visit with friends so they could provide for his needs. Putting out to sea from there, we encountered strong headwinds that made it difficult to keep the ship on course. So we sailed north of Cyprus, between the island and the mainland. Keeping to the open sea, we passed along the road of Cilicia and Pamphylia, landing at Myra, in the province of Lycia. There the commanding officer found an Egyptian ship from Alexandria that was bound for Italy, and he put us on board. We had several days of slow sailing, and after great difficulty we finally reached Cnidus. But the wind was against us, so we sailed across to Crete, and along the sheltered coast of the island, past the Cape of Salmone. We struggled along the coast with great difficulty, and finally arrived at Fair Havens, near the town of Lasea. We had lost a lot of time. The weather was becoming dangerous for sea travel because it was so late in the fall, and Paul spoke to the ship's officers about it. "Men," he said, "I believe there is trouble ahead if we go on. Shipwreck, loss of cargo, and danger to our lives as well." But the officer in charge of the prisoners listened more to the ship's captain and the owner than to Paul. And since Fair Havens was an exposed harbor, a poor place to spend the winter, most of the crew wanted to go on to Phoenix, farther up the coast of Crete, and spend the winter there. Phoenix was also a good harbor with only a southwest and northwest exposure. I'm too used to reading this way, so I'm switching back. The storm at sea. When a light wind began blowing from the south, the sailors thought they could make it, so they pulled up anchor and sailed close to the shore of Crete. But the weather changed abruptly, and a wind of typhoon strength, called a northeaster, burst across the inland and blew us out to sea. The sailors couldn't turn the ship into the wind, so they gave up and let it run before the gale. We sailed along the sheltered side of a small island named Cauda, where with great difficulty we hoisted aboard, the lifeboat being towed behind us. Then the sailors bound ropes around the hull of the ship to strengthen it. They were afraid of being driven across to the sandbars of Syrtis off the African coast, so they lowered the sea anchor to slow the ship, and were driven before the wind. The next day, as gale force winds continued to batter the ship, the crew began throwing the cargo overboard. The following day, they even took some of the ship's gear and threw it overboard. The terrible storm raged for many days, blotting out the sun and the stars, until at last all hope was gone. No one had eaten for a long time. Finally, Paul called the crew together and said, "Men, you should have listened to me in the first place and not left Crete. You would have avoided all the damage and loss. But take courage. None of you will lose your lives, even though the ship will go down. For last night, an angel of God, to whom I belong, and whom I serve, stood beside me. And he said, 'Don't be afraid, Paul, for you will surely stand trial before Caesar. What's more, God in his goodness has granted safety to everyone sailing with you. So take courage, for I believe God, It will be just as he said. But we will be shipwrecked on an island. Well, that's very interesting, Paul. We're going to go down, but we're not going to lose everything. So keep focus. Keep moving forward. All right. With that, I hope you have a great start to the weekend. And we'll see you tomorrow for the end of 27 and see what happens with the shipwreck. Have an amazing day, and God bless.